Tonight, local doctors vent their anger at a meeting with the federal regional health minister. And Broken Hill locals give evidence at an inquiry into water policy.
From our 7 Spencer Golf Studios, your nightly news with John Hunt begins now.
Good evening. First tonight, Port Lincoln doctors say they're fed up and frustrated with the ongoing health crisis plaguing regional communities. It follows a sit-down meeting with Regional Health Minister Mark Colton.
Port Lincoln Dr Simon Lathleen has been a medical practitioner for 40 years and knows all too well the struggles regional doctors face.
Health outcomes in rural Australia are not as good as metropolitan.
The ongoing doctor shortage rippling across the region, with the latest blow knocking last week.
There's been a number of doctors leave town for various reasons in the last 12 months, and so the doctors here weren't able to staff the hospital as they were doing because they just didn't have the personnel.
Instead, the government's been forced to buy expensive locums to service the hospitals. It's the growing problems like these which were discussed with the Regional Health Minister yesterday.
It's the number one health priority of the Australian government is to overcome this workforce shortage in rural areas.
The Minister meeting with doctors across the region.
Most things don't get fixed until they're broken, and the supplying of doctors into rural Australia is pretty close to broken at the moment.
It's just not good enough. The country people have been waiting on this for so long and it's just getting worse.
Kimber and Cummins both faced the pressure of juggling one doctor, while Streaky Bay went without a GP for 2 weeks last year.
We had a very frank discussion today about different options and they were very frank in their assessment of the likelihood of that happening.
The idea of, improving things in the next 10 years has been on the agenda for 10 years.
Nathan Regter, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Far West locals have had their chance to go on the record, raising concerns about water management at a parliamentary hearing. A united voice saying policies can't ignore the Menindee Lakes and public consultation needs serious improvement.
On the record and under oath, hoping to have their voices heard.
The health of all our river communities is relying on the presence of a healthy river.
An upper house inquiry examining the impact of dams and water infrastructure in New South Wales visited the Silver City. The Menindee Lakes and Darling Barker flow dominating discussion.
If we can't get water through the system to Menindee, then we haven't got a project to work on.
Broken Hill City Council's joining representatives from central Darling and as far away as Wentworth.
The main things the council want to see fixed is continuity of the river and also Menindee Lakes having water in them.
One of the most shocking claims concerning water measurements.
2021, the Northern Basin buffoons want us to be dumb enough to believe that with a stick in a bit of ground, that's going to measure the water.
While the Barkindji people claim their native title rights are being overlooked, they're now planning to establish their own water commission.
It's a right that exists, but it doesn't exist at the moment in that space.
Local voices growing louder. Whether it's heard in Macquarie Street remains to be seen. Lachlan Itter, 7 Spencer Golf News.
A bill recently tabled in South Australian Parliament could see medical cannabis patients given exemptions to drive while taking their prescribed medicine. One regional advocate is fiercely supporting the move, saying the changes are needed.
A new bill could be the answer for many patients who need to get behind the wheel.
To understand that having a detectable amount of THC in your system does not necessarily equate to impairment.
Despite medicinal cannabis being legalised for 5 years, this regional advocate claims South Australia's laws are outdated.
They are subjected to a roadside drug test and THC is detected, they're automatically guilty of an offence, even though they may not be impaired.
Greens' Tammy Frank putting the changes on the table, saying it incorporates a common sense approach and will not allow motorists to flout the road rules.
Doesn't allow that person a defence if their driving was reckless or negligent or dangerous.
She's raising concerns for regional residents affected by these laws.
They don't have access to public transport. They don't have the options that are available in the cities. They need to drive to keep their jobs, to keep their connection to community, and they're not impaired. So why are they being punished?
Supporters looking for other residents to get behind the changes and follow suit with other states.
There are already medications that people are taking and doctors are prescribing, such as opiates and benzodiazepines. But at the moment, medicinal cannabis isn't treated equally in the face of the law.
Shari Hams, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
GFG Sanjeev Gupta has partnered with billionaires Andrew Forrest and Gina Rinehart, backing the proposal for a new green steel research hub. Set to be built in Adelaide, the new hub will aim to slash carbon emissions, transforming Australia into a green steel and iron giant. According to The Advertiser, the proposed project run by the University of Adelaide is also set to create hundreds of jobs. Broken Hill has seen a dramatic drop in its COVID testing numbers. Just 54 people were tested in the last 7 days, compared to 270 the previous week.
Melbourne is just experiencing another outbreak. We don't know what the extent of that will be. It's really a stark reminder that it has not gone away.
South Australia has also now closed its border with Greater Melbourne, while the hotspot system remains for New South Wales. Still to come tonight, the region sizzles under warm conditions, and the rotavirus vaccine paying off, with hospital admissions plummeting. Hello again. Spencer Gulf locals spent the day battling hot conditions, with temperatures in most areas above 40 degrees. The weather keeping the Country Fire Service on its toes, as total fire bans were issued across the region.
The hot and windy weather reaching Whyalla and parts of the Spencer Gulf. Temperatures rising to dangerous levels, with locals warned to be on alert.
We're looking at hot to very hot temperatures across the district today, ahead of a cooler change moving through.
The hazardous weather keeping locals indoors and away from the heat.
Our advice to people in the current heat wave is to make sure that they are keeping as cool as possible, making sure they're drinking plenty of water, and also they should be checking on the welfare of those people who are most vulnerable.
Temperatures are already in the mid to high 30s around 11 o'clock around Port Augusta and Whyalla and Port Pirie.
A total fire ban remains in place until midnight tonight, with a cool change expected for the weekend.
It's a little bit cooler as we head further south because we are starting to see the effect of the change across the lower Eyre Peninsula.
SES warning locals are not out of the woods just yet, with the predicted weather change expected to create flooding.
We are expecting quite a lot of rain in the northwestern and western parts of the state over the next few days, and the thing is that's likely to cause some roads to be blocked.
Sophia Contagonis, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Recreational fishers are being urged to report those doing the wrong thing after a 66-year-old Stirling North man was found in possession of 175 razorfish hearts last year. A court had ordered him to pay more than $2,000 in fines. The Primary Industries Minister says people must understand the consequences.
As of the 1st of March, fines will be going up in relation to fishing offences. There have been very little change in that space over 30 years.
Reports can be made via the SA Fishing app. A revamp of South Australia's Pastoral Act could pave the way for carbon farming in the state's northern rangelands. The state government releasing a report today, claiming the changes will boost regional economies and create jobs.
A big crowd discussing a new idea. More than 100 people attending a forum at Central Oval today, discussing diversification for pastoralists. The state government proposing a new Pastoral Act, which they say could open up carbon farming opportunities, create jobs and boost regional economies.
Making sure that if there's an advantage to take a 100-year contract, that's able to be taken up by these pastoralists.
A new report suggests South Australia has missed out on the investment.
In the pastoral rangelands area, we only have 3 projects that are in operation. That's in relation to about 300 nationally.
While conservationists have raised concerns over the amendment serving short-time financial benefits at the cost of the environment, the minister says this is not the case.
Make sure that we have an opportunity to minimise our carbon footprint, so it's very important. This is just one of those opportunities.
The report's modelling suggests that by 2030, between $28 million to $84 million a year could be earned from carbon farming projects.
This will be not only a valuable part of farming practice, but also will help us comply with all sorts of protocols that might be in place in the future.
Katrina Musson, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
New SA Health data reveals a decline in children aged 5 years and under being admitted to hospital for gastro. The results showing patient numbers dropping by 80% over the last 12 years. Sophia Contagonis has the story.
The rotavirus is a type of gastro which targets young children. It's now on the decline thanks to the introduction of a vaccine. SA Health has released new data showing a significant impact since the rollout of the vaccine back in 2007, reducing the rate of children needing to be admitted to hospital because of the disease. SA Health's Dr. Louise Flood says the disease can be fatal if left untreated, encouraging parents to look out for specific symptoms.
Diarrhoea, vomiting, fever and dehydration.
Over the last financial year, 57 children were admitted to hospital with the virus. This compares to 421 who were admitted back in 2006. Dr. Flood says the best means for protection is for parents to get their children vaccinated.
So vaccination is the best way. But also can decrease your risk by hand hygiene, so washing your hands after you go to the toilet, before you make food for others, before you eat food and after you change nappies.
The rotavirus vaccine is available for free as part of the National Immunisation Program and is offered to children at the 6-week and 4-month age mark.
Stay with us. Broken Hill Uni students receive financial support and Port Pirie Police attend a call-out with a difference. 3 Broken Hill locals have been given a financial boost to help them complete tertiary studies. The Skillshare Education Grant helping to bridge the divide between city and country education and keep locals in town.
With limited options in the Far West, most have no choice but to move to Adelaide for study. It's a necessary but unwelcome financial burden.
Education has been really hard financially, especially with COVID. I had to spend 2 weeks in quarantine in Adelaide last year to do a week's at uni.
3 locals sharing in $6,000 from Foundation Broken Hill's Skillshare Education Grants.
Every year I have to relocate, move my stuff back into Flinders accommodation. So that will pay a quarter of my accommodation, which is a very big burden off my shoulders.
While Michelle and Ailish will both use their money to cover accommodation costs, they say the grant encourages them to return home when they've completed their course.
Hopefully after the training that those people who've been granted the scholarship will return to Broken Hill in their profession.
I did a placement just recently in emergency, which I absolutely loved. The emergency nurses up there are amazing people. If I could be half the nurses that they are, I would be humbled to be there.
Current students told to consider applying next round.
Around January, the beginning of a new year, and so that will be available again next year.
Lachlan Itter, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Broken Hill has shown its support for local businesses, taking the crown in last year's Why Leave Town promotion. More than 2,000 Far West gift cards were purchased in 2020, keeping more than $100,000 in the community. The cards are now accepted by almost 200 businesses. A family of ospreys nesting off the coast of Port Lincoln is helping researchers further understand the endangered species. For the first time in Australia, the animals are being tracked to see where they go.
Captured from all angles, these bird watchers don't miss a beat.
The interest and the following has just been amazing.
For nearly a decade, a family of endangered osprey have been documented living on a disused barge near Lincoln Marina. Security cameras capturing their every movement.
We've had a lot of information about these osprey up until the point when they leave the nest. Then we've had no idea.
Until now, with one of the chicks, Solly, being fitted with a satellite tracker.
From my understanding, it's the first time they've been tracked in Australia, so this is quite unique.
The 5-month-old has already flown the coop and stretching her wings, travelling a mammoth 300 kilometres to Streaky Bay.
I don't think anybody expected that she would go so far.
It's research experts desperately need. Concerningly, the species has declined by more than 25% over the past decade.
That decline is likely to continue unless we actually learn more about ospreys and we find out what the causes of that decline may be.
Nathan Regter, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Port Pirie Police have attended a different kind of call-out this week, donating Nintendos for sick kids at the local hospital. Nurses are ecstatic by the donation, claiming its current toy collection is more than 20 years old.
Small gifts that will make a world of difference. Port Pirie's Blue Light Committee has banded together to gift these new toys.
We haven't been able to do any blue light events recently, and so what we wanted to do is to give to the hospital in a donation by giving these consoles to them to give kids that attend the hospital something to do.
Local nurses welcoming the new Nintendos with open arms.
And that means a lot to us that you've thought of us.
They say it will also come in use for kids visiting the hospital during tough family circumstances.
We get some good use out of it in our palliative care suite when we have visitors that have young children that they're visiting someone that's, in a terminal stage of life. So it will certainly make that easier. Parents are always very aware of trying to keep children quiet.
The idea sparked by a detective visiting the hospital with a local shop, EB Games, supporting the initiative.
So a member of our CIB unit, our criminal investigation branch, came to us with the idea. We purchased the switches and we delivered it today.
The Blue Light Committee also working to host events and develop a relationship with youth in the region.
It just helps build that relationship between the youth and the police, so that as they grow older, hopefully that they pass that on to their children as well, and they understand that police are there to help.
Shari Hams, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Stay with us after the break. We'll check what's biting in the Spencer Gulf, and Alex will have the latest weather details. Hello again. Time now to check what's biting for anglers in the Spencer Gulf this weekend. Here's our fishing experts with their tips.
Welcome another week around the Gulf Fishing Tips from Port Pirie. I tell you what, I'm very, very glad I'm not out fishing right now at the moment. The wind is actually starting to howl. I think we've got some weather coming along, but that's a good thing for some of our fishing partners. We get a bit stirred up. So we've been talking about blue swimmer crabs. You never know, we're not too far away from squid and King George whiting, so keep on out there. The weekend will be a lot cooler for you, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. That's all we've got this week. We'll see you next week.
G'day and welcome to this week's Fishing Tips from Port Augusta, Jewel North. Crabs are fairly big at the moment, but there are a few she-backs amongst them, so try and return the she-backs to the water. There are silver whiting. The main places are in those Flinders Channel, low tide there, right down to about under knee-deep water. Try that. The old trick there, try stirring up the water by kicking it around, walk about 20 feet away from it and cast back where you've just kicked around, and you'll generally get a couple of the bigger ones sitting in the back there. There are some big flatter getting caught along the middle banks and also along the front of the shacks. If you do get a nice calm night, there has been some garfish sighted as well. That's all we have from the Jewel of the North.
Hi, whalers fishing tips this week. Off the local jetty, some nice garfish have been coming off the local jetty down towards the end. The best area has been on the right-hand side where the white holes are, so get amongst those. Best bait to use are gents, and again on the burley float has been the best results. Off the local foreshore, still some nice silver whiting coming in. You do have to work for them. Out on the boats, a few blue swimmer crabs coming from most areas now, and a little bit further around, again towards north of Whyalla, some garfish down towards Point Lowly area.
G'day, welcome to this week's Fishing Tips from Port Lincoln. Starting up around Tumby Bay, there's been some good catches of squid and whiting around town there, especially for the guys in the boats. There's been an inkling of silver whiting, a yellowfin whiting starting to come down the coast, so keep an eye out for them on the local beaches too. Moving down towards Port Lincoln, there's been some squid off the town jetties still, and also the Rocky Points and other jetties around town have been fishing pretty well too. The small kingfish have still been around, but they'll start to thin out soon. That's about it for this week. We'll see you again next week.
And with a look at what's happening in the weather, here's Alex Sykes.
Thanks, John. Most of us needed the rain jacket today. From 3 p.m, it was hot and wet in Port Augusta, 43 degrees. Similar conditions in Whyalla, 41, and a shower or two in Coffin Bay, 27. Port Lincoln, 33. Broken Hill was hot and sunny, 38. A top of 40 in Port Pirie, 37 in Woodner and Clare, 36 in Kadina and Cleve, and very hot and a shower or two in Adelaide, a top of 34 degrees. Taking a look at the satellite image now, cloud streaming across SA from the northwest as tropical moisture feeds a trough is generating patchy rain. The rain is generally light due to dry northerly winds, which are also gusty and hot. Cloud is thickening in the west due to a cooler change, causing rain to get heavier. Moving on to tomorrow's weather outlook now, and we'll start with the Gulf waters. North to northeasterly winds 15 to 20 knots, seas to 1 to 1.5 metres, and south to southwesterly swell below 1 metre. Cloudy conditions across the region. Tomorrow, Port Lincoln 23, Cleve to top 22, Woodner set to reach a high of 25 degrees. Becoming windy and partly cloudy in Whyalla 24, Port Augusta possible shower 26, Kadina to top 24 degrees. Port Pirie 25, Clare 23, and a shower or two in Broken Hill, a top of 25 there. Taking a look further through the week now, partly cloudy conditions across the region. On Saturday, Cooper Pedy 28, 27 the top in Broken Hill, Woodner and Port Pirie, Kadina and Whyalla 25. Conditions clearing slightly on Sunday, Cooper Pedy to top 31, sunny and 28 in both Port Augusta and Port Pirie, 26 in Kadina and Adelaide. And heating up on Monday, 34 in Cooper Pedy, sunny and 32 in both Woodner and Port Pirie. And that's all the weather from me for tonight. It's back to you, John.
Thanks for that, Alex. And that's the local news this Thursday evening. Thanks for joining us. I'll have updates later, and we will be back tomorrow at 7 p.m. Until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.